Sometimes I think I wait a little too long for the important stuff, for something to happen. That dust? What the fuck? Oh my god, it's actually in the camera. Alright, well, I'll just position that right there, I guess. No one will notice. Got him late with this, call the Tempestarii, call I don't know why the fuck this makes me nervous. Call the Tempestarii. Call the Tempestarii is the 30th major update to Warframe. Fuck. The Call of the Tempestarii is the 30th major update to Warframe. With it comes a new quest, a new Warframe, a new weapon, a skin for Mirage and Void Storms, a new variation of mission type for the growing Railjack component of Warframe. Update 30 is, in essence, exactly what we've come to expect a Warframe update to be, and this is a sentiment that will mean very different things to different people. Unsurprisingly, while the update's reception leans toward the green, like every update, it's been polarizing. The Reddit community is a mosaic of questions, suggestions, frustrations, and counter-frustrations, and a lot of positivity that tends to get lost in the noise. The YouTube scene is, I'm told, largely critical. Twitter is just happy to have more Captura scenes. And while this rainbow of emotions is very much the norm when updates like this one drop, there's a type of content that doesn't seem to appear, and that's a proper critique. If such a thing exists, it has eluded me. Instead, you're likely to find wholesale hate, blind praise, or content that won't dare risking having an opinion so the comments section can form one for them. So, the proper critique is what I'll now attempt to provide. Sort of. There's still gonna be a through line of pure sarcasm because I'm an asshole. Oh shit. Got a meeting. Fuck. Alright. Whatever. Alright. Alright. Hi. Hey everybody, how's it going? About the job? Okay. The position is okay. There's no other position for me to move to? No? Alright. Okay. Yeah, I'll bring back the computer in 10 minutes. I'll be at the office in a second. Okay, yep. No, I think I'll be fine. You know, I'm a fat white guy who wears gamer shirts. I got options. Oh yeah, which ones? Oh, there. But before I spill the tea, it's my belief that all critiques worth their salt start with the strengths of a given work. So let's start there. We Sevagoth gang now. And don't worry, there won't be any JoJo references here. Sevagoth's design drips pure, refined style, and not just visually, but mechanically too. He's one of the few frames that drops with a full kit of abilities that play into each other right off the bat. Not only that, he's the first frame with the second physical form, and that second form has its own abilities. For me, Warframe is all about the abilities, so getting a caster frame like this feels fantastic. And, again, just look at this thing. Sevagoth is literally dressed to kill, making every other Warframe look like a nerdy middle schooler who hasn't quite figured out their sense of style. It's hard not to play Sevagoth because doing so feels like dressing down. Anyway, his abilities, they're solid. Hit 1 to fire out Sevagoth's ghost buddy, who will shit-talk every enemy in its immediate proximity to make them more vulnerable to damage. If you aim at an enemy, Sevagoth's shadow will focus his harassment campaign at whatever goon you're looking at. Hit 2 and you can lay down a stink seed on every baddie in the room for some damage over time. If you send out the shadow with Sevagoth's 1, you'll detonate each enemy laden
laden with seed for damage equal to a percentage of its HP. His 3, Gloom, is his Helmeth ability, and it's deliciously sinister. Hit 3 to cast out a significantly wide aura that slows enemies and gives lifesteal to everyone in the aura, including you. It's an energy-hungry ability, but well worth building around. Finally, Sevagoth's 4 lets you control his shadow, which is, in essence, a squishier but more usable pocket Valkyr, a Warframe I haven't used since I was 24. Its 1 yoinks just about everyone in front of you in floaty, helpless fashion, so you can tear them apart like a Tarrasque in an all-you-can-eat urban environment. Its 2 is a dash ability that steals health from the first mob you hit, and usually kills it too. Its 3 makes every enemy in an area around you more vulnerable to damage. All in all, Sevagoth's Shadow is a powerful but not invincible sort of meat shredder that provides a nice buffer between the enemy and Sevagoth himself. Meanwhile, you can find Sevagoth meditating about cool things like homing missiles, shawls, and void storms. Now, for something important. Something critical to my continued enjoyment of the frame as a whole, and I'm gonna need your help with this, Tenno. Are you ready? Which colors should I go with? Kinda hard to choose. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, the quest. It's short and sweet and shows off some really charming visual flourishes that make me hopeful for the future. I won't spoil anything yet, but there's one particular thing that the quest did that doesn't get enough attention. Typically, Warframe quests are broken up into a handful of filler missions which have you go here, do that, and all the while you're bouncing between your orbiter and the next locale. With Call of the Tempestarii, the same thing happens, but you don't really notice it at all. It feels like one singular mission that's escalating and escalating, all because of Railjack's hidden loading screens that do their thing while you're punching through the void.
Whoa.
This feels amazing. This subtle thing does so much work to preserve the illusion and keep your head in the game, and I truly, desperately hope this gets utilized more in the future. I didn't realize how badly the game needed this until it happened. I asked about it during the Warframe AMA. I got no reply. In their defense, it was pretty late into the AMA and they probably didn't see it, but I hope this type of mission design worms its way into more and more of the game.
Right, so you're my 12 o'clock, eh?
Hi, yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, just fine.
Oops, sorry about that.
Tell me about yourself.
Yep. Yeah, my name is Ed. I've been specializing in SEO writing and, B2C, B2B writing for the last 5 years. I've written for over 50 brands, adapting all of the content to their brand and voice needs.
Hold on a moment. This isn't a job interview, it's therapy.
Yeah, sorry.
Finally, there's the new Mirage Skin. It looks good. And that's about as much as needs to be said about that. Now comes the criticism, Tenno. A heaping pile of red-hot frustration is about to drill through your audio device, and your only hope of retaining the warmth from any rays of positivity in your life that I'm about to eclipse is to put as much distance between yourself and the internet in the next 5 seconds you have remaining. And I'm not gonna be shy about it. Not that shy. Are you ready, Tenno? Are you ready for the heat? Here it comes. The update's okay. This update bothers me in a way that I can only describe as unfair. After all, it does pretty much what a Warframe update does, and yet I've got a whole lot to say about it. Why unfair? Because considering Warframe's development history, this update is about the size of most Warframe updates, filling up the volume of your average thimble. After running through the quest and fighting through a handful of void storms, I took a quick inventory of what this update brings us, ultimately arriving at a single conclusion. We get a snack-sized bit of storytelling, a look at what's to come both in presentation and story, a couple of new toys, as well as a new skin, a new mission variant that hopes to spice things up, and ultimately, not enough. This update is small. Small like the serving size of Ben & Jerry's fish food is small. You're expected to enjoy half a cup and be satisfied, but I'm trying to down the whole pint. I don't care how much it hurts. I find myself hungry, Tenno, wanting a whole lot more. The taste of what we did get was pretty good, but as time goes by, and because I'm one greedy son of a bitch, my tolerance for these small portions fades. All in all, this update feels like the first 20 minutes of a new game, but without the rest of the game. Think of the first Half-Life. How would you feel if the Resonance Cascade happened and Gordon Freeman went back to his normal work until a hypothetical Vortigaunt update came out? Or, for a more appropriate example, imagine if you just completed the first level of the Red War campaign in Destiny 2 and all that was left was wandering around on patrol in the EDZ until the next expansion dropped. I, for one, feel a little bit empty and lost. I guess in this way I find myself relating to Sevagoth's Shadow. So that's kinda cool, I guess. But let's get more concrete. This update isn't just small, it's thin, with a nutritional value of empty calories. Spoilers ahead, me girls and me boys. The quest follows your typical story structure. The introduction brings us to a debris field where we meet Captain Vala Glarios, a corpus goon with a golden voice and a big old ship. She punches in and harasses us for a little bit before the inciting incident / MacGuffin in the form of an unknown railjack finds us messing around together. After the unknown vessel asks if we need an assist in a way that Cephalon Psy fails to understand, Psy finds a way to escape the situation entirely because, fuck it. We learn more about the unknown vessel, called the Tempestarii, and find a way to beckon it so that friendly communication can be established. We do so, discovering that the ship's pilot is Sevagoth Shadow, who's just a Chimigoth looking for his Pamagoth. Captain Rising Action Vala Glarios punches in, knocks you out, sings you a song, and you wake up to find the Tempestarii has been captured by Vala's ship. You proceed to commit a few war crimes, free the Tempestarii, and press the climax button to destroy Vala's vessel. During the resolution, Sevagoth Shadow reunites with his Sevagoth. Sevagoth accepts the sweet embrace of death, and I envy him, and we immediately fire that casket into high orbit over Earth and detonate that shit because we have enough stuff lying around and Psy runs a tight ship. So that's what happens. And while the quest is enjoyable, there's some issues you may not have noticed that really prevent the story from feeling substantial, as though we were served a basket of chicken fingies without the fries. Essential. The first of these issues is one I will attempt to reveal with a question. Who is the protagonist of this story? Your first thought might be us, right? Wrong. Space nap for you. We don't have a single line of dialogue, and our agency is limited to playing the game or turning it off. In truth, the only character on our side who is making decisions and has any emotional stake in the story is Cephalon Psy. If you pay attention or if you look back, you'll find that it's Psy who moves the story forward at every step. He invites us to the debris field, takes us away from the debris field when things get hairy, takes us to the Corpus capital ship to learn more about the unknown vessel. He communicates with the Tempestarii and has us rescue it so we can resolve its final mission. To be clear, there's no issue with us not being the main character here. While it's incredibly unfortunate that we don't have any dialogue, for all we know, the voice actors for our operators may not have been available, or perhaps their cost didn't fit into the budget. These things happen in games as a service. We are societally abused, disaffected pillage goblins anyway, so kinda hard to relate to. What we do know is that Psy gets lines, and Psy, for better or worse, speaks for us for the duration of the quest. This means the bigger issue is that the quest doesn't do anything to develop Cephalon Psy as a character, and that's a damn shame because Psy is a very fun character. Reminder, he says things like this.
Crew, a color you have never seen. Imagine it. That is where you are. Meditation. War is a lifetime scholarship. The enemy, no finer teacher. Meditation. That which can be destroyed by the truth should be. We have been boarded. This is our home. Defend it. Visitors, your short lives are about to become crap dipped in misery.
As the only character besides Vala who's invested in the story, the potential for strong character moments for Psy was significant. In the end, all we get from that rich vein is Psy's fascination with the Tempestarii, his respect for its accomplishments, and his desire to put the Tempestarii to rest. Not a whole lot. We don't learn anything new about Psy, and we aren't presented with moments that would deepen our appreciation for him. This is probably the biggest whoops of the quest. Since our operator doesn't speak, imagine if Psy took the opportunity to get into it with Vala. They're the two primary talking heads of the quest, so why not? By having the two attack each other verbally while we cut down fighters and complete objectives, both characters would develop naturally. We would learn more about what Psy stands for as well as what Vala stands for, as well as how those ideas clash. This would provide a much more natural transition into Vala's otherwise jarring exposition that explains her enmity for the Tempestarii in the song that follows. Instead of us magically hearing it while power napping on the deck of the Tempestarii, Vala could have announced this over comms, allowing Psy to reply in kind.
Lucretia platform. I drifted for days among the frozen fragments of my crew.
Lucretia platform. Obliterated unceremoniously after 25 years of service. Performance aptitude insufficient. Insurance claim status denied. 0 credits due. More than your crew was worth.
My sisters. I dreamed their dead, gaping mouths were singing with me yet.
Dream granted. Crew, send the captain to her choir.
Now, understand that this example demonstrates a potential exchange between the two characters and doesn't necessarily reveal anything about them, but you can see how easily something like that could be injected into dialogue. The same exchange could go like this.
I was working in an exosuit when the Tempestarii destroyed Lucretia platform.
Lucretia platform, a Corpus capital ship which outclasses all Orican-era combatants I have served against. Destroyed by a single railjack. Captain Glarios,
I accept your invitation to recreate such a victory. Or something like this.
I drifted for days among the frozen fragments of my crew.
There is no deeper sorrow than to fail in your obligation to your crew. I understand this, Captain. I share in this pain. But do not mistake my sympathy for mercy. To continue your aggression against us is to accept your failure once again. We will not relent. And then Vala can take the opportunity to differentiate herself from the rest of the corpus rank and file we're familiar with, since that's essentially the point of her. She could say something to the effect of learning how to run a tight ship, or how our previous captain didn't have the salt to inspire her crew to peak efficiency. And then we get the song blasted at us over comms as she sings with her crew. Sai could demonstrate his annoyance with the music and commands us to drop the bass with our forward artillery. We skirmish for a bit, and maybe Vala talks a little more about what Lucretia platform was, and what her role in that ship meant to her, and what it was like to be attacked by the Tempestarii while it was happening. Then, as the battle is reaching a fever pitch, and Vala throws a stupid amount of souped-up fighters at us, Sai's no-bullshit exterior cracks just a little bit, revealing a deep-seated fear of losing another railjack and expressing his concern for the crew. That's when Vala uses her Corpus Blackout Pulse to knock us out. We awake in the same circumstances, of course, with the Tempestarii captured by Vala. This time, Sai is playing all sorts of nonsense over comms in an attempt to wake us up. Or, to raise the stakes even higher, maybe Sai did something to wake us up that diminishes him in some way, or risks his operational integrity. This is where we start to see Sai's values diverge from Vala's. Sai truly cares about his crew in a familial sense, whereas Vala only pretends to. The rest of the quest plays out as normal, but at the end, Sai challenges Vala. While the ordnance we deploy is ripping apart her ship, Sai says something like, "Captain, it is time to repay your debt to your sisters on Lucretia platform. Take these final moments to ensure the escape of your remaining crew." And then Vala lashes out and says the debt is ours now, and she'll stop at nothing to collect. This hints at her escape to the Granum Void, but more importantly, it reveals more about her as a character. In this context, her grieving over her sisters is less about the loss of her comrades and more about her fear of death. She'd rather justify her decisions with grief than die for her crew because, ultimately, she is a selfish and obsessive person. Then, Sai would have an opportunity to show how he's Vala's exact opposite. While we search the Void for Sevagoth, Sai could affirm that he'd rather face destruction than continue as the final memory of a fallen crew, and then maybe he could tell us a little bit about the previous crew he served. But, sadly, we don't learn much at all about Sai, or Vala for that matter, which is strange because she was hyped up as a significant addition to Warframe's roster of villains. I think we all know at this point that she's the lead-in to the Corpus Liches, what we now know are called the Sisters of Parvos, but it's difficult to care about them when I don't care about Vala. Ultimately, she's just another goon for the Tenno to slap around and embarrass on the regular. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this quest needs the examples I've provided to fix it. I can only make up so much crap without knowing the secrets of the game's lore that DE possesses, but it needs emotional content, some kind of character development to further our understanding of our characters and the world around us that the script doesn't provide. This quest contains about 716 words. I counted. For visual context, here's what 716 words looks like. A chunk of that is generic Railjack dialogue that you'd hear in regular Railjack missions, and maybe a little over 100 of those words contains any sort of character development or emotional charge. Of those 100 or so words, the lion's share belongs to Vala, our villain, whereas about 12 belong to Sai. The rest of the script is mostly Sai acting like a computer, providing information with about as much depth as an Amazon Echo. If you were to separate the voice actor from those lines, you'd be hard-pressed to extract any emotional value from them whatsoever. Thankfully, we have Sai's voice actor to fill in that void with his wonderful performance and trick us into thinking there's more to Sai's lines than there is. Word count isn't everything. After all, there's something to be said for brevity and the art of visual storytelling, but it's a decent enough scale when half or more of the script is fluff or set dressing, and the main character hasn't grown or changed or even revealed anything about themselves by the end. But I guess all of that is fine, he said, sarcastically. Based on the low-level enemies faced on the quest and the ability to bypass the construction of your railjack with a market item, the quest is most likely supposed to be a simple introduction to railjack for newer players or current players who never bothered. In that regard, the quest does a decent enough job. It just wasn't meant for people like me who know that DE is capable of more than this.
Yeah, I make some YouTube videos with my friend, my best friend, actually.
Ed, hold on. Why do you always wait to talk about the problem?
Because I used to take walks at night. I used to stay up late with friends until we would talk about crap that we thought was deep or meaningful, and we were kids, so it was all bullshit, and we didn't know anything about life or what was coming, and it felt real. Like we were finding something, you know, like something important was actually happening, and whatever it was, it only existed for just, you know, before the sun came up, and we had to get back to the routine and the normal shit, you know, and now they're gone, and those nights, you know, they're gone, and I'm here playing these video games, and my fucking cats will come up to me and just look. You know, they'll just look and they don't know what I'm doing. Like, they're worried. You know, I mean, how could they know that I'm playing video games? You know, they're cats, you know, but then I think about it. I really wonder what they see when they're looking up at me. You know, they don't know that I'm engaging with this thing, so they think I'm just staring at the lights, you know, or maybe I'm just staring at a blank screen to them, you know, all day. You know, they don't know. And you know, I think about that, and it fucking erases everything, every little bit of fun I get from these games, because my cats don't know that I'm having fun. You know, it may as well never happened. I'm the only witness. And I'm this fucking shit audience, man.
Wow. What sort of games are you playing? Would you say?
Play Warframe.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, you've probably been wondering, what's this weirdo doing in your Warframe content? Well, take a second and consider what you might have learned about him, and compare that to what you learned about any of the characters during this quest. You might come up with a few bullet points for Vala, but nothing for Sai. And that is a shame. So, that's the quest. Oh wait, I didn't talk about the song. We're not done. I'll admit, Sleeping in the Cold Below is kind of a banger, and I do listen to it unironically, but I can't help but feel like it's weapons-grade marketing designed to take advantage of current trends. Sea shanties have been super popular, and I have no doubt DE's marketing department knows that, even if they missed the boat. Regardless of whether or not that's the case, the moment that was chosen to play the song felt uncanny, bordering on cringeworthy. Honestly, it feels like they just picked a spot to shove it in and hoped no one would notice. Normally, I really wouldn't care about this sort of thing, but because this 4-minute moment is supposed to be the highlight of the quest, let's take some time to understand the layers of absurdity this moment requires your brain to ignore for you to enjoy it. We are hearing a sea shanty in a sci-fi game, the setting of which has evolved millennia beyond the need for seafaring vessels. The captain, everyone's boss on that ship, is singing this song, a working song, about working until you die or else. We're hearing this song and the exposition that introduces it while unconscious. We are hearing this, presumably, while slaughtering Vala's old crew as Sevagoth's shadow in an abstract dream realm, which clashes majorly with the epic tone of the song. In the context we're provided, Vala must be singing this song with all the heart and imagination she puts into it while drifting through space with nothing but the corpses of her crew to keep her company. But, you know, we don't see that. This set piece felt like it was trying very hard to be the strongest moment of the quest, but it would have been much stronger if we got to experience the exposition Vala describes. Since we're randomly taking control of Sevagoth's shadow, we might as well control the Tempestarii and rip up Lucretia platform in a flashback. A crew could have been singing the song as a way of keeping composure in spite of certain destruction, or maybe we got to see a traumatized Vala struggle and whimper through a solo version of the song while leaving behind the ruin of Lucretia platform. It just doesn't feel right. It's manipulative at best, but the song's gonna break 2 million views, so what do I know? Alright, that's that. Next up are Void Storms. This one will be quick. If you're anything like me, you've played long enough to have an arsenal of finely tuned equipment that leaves you utterly uninterested in any new toy you don't already have. You play for the fun of it, for the raw gameplay this game has to offer, and not just for the grind any given piece of equipment demands. When I play Warframe, it's to enjoy the moment-to-moment havoc of its violent hordes and kinetic playstyle, because, for me, I've completed enough grind to be satisfied with what I already have. With that context in mind, going into Void Storms was a bitter surprise. Why? For the same reason I don't buy Reese's peanut butter eggs. They're basically the same thing as the original, don't at me. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Void Fissures. They took the concept of Void Fissures, a game mode introduced in 2016, and threw it into Railjack with almost no added nuance. I will acknowledge that the environmental hazards lend a fun sense of chaos that Railjack desperately needs. The shared reactant is incredibly convenient, and the way the Void Storm closes around the skybox is intimidating. But in terms of sheer gameplay, Void Storms don't do anything that you haven't seen already for years and years. While it's objectively good that Void Storms bring that core element of the game to Railjack in an attempt to bridge the gap between Railjack and the rest of the game, Void Storms feel slapped on. I was hoping for something a lot weirder, a lot more creative, and a at the very least, different from what we already have. Even the term itself demands a level of intensity greater than what it actually offers. We don't even learn what a void storm is beside it being essentially inclement weather in space. It's not necessarily bad writing to drop turns without explanation, leaving the audience to connect the dots. But when it comes to concepts that are entirely alien to our understanding of physics and the natural world, you should probably leave some opportunities to learn more. To that end, I was really hoping void storms would give us opportunities to launch high-risk expeditions into the void, a thing so fundamental and significant to the lore of Warframe that, paradoxically, we have learned almost nothing about since the game's inception. Imagine it, a high-level game mode that would see a railjack fly headlong into the maw of a void storm, to be swallowed up and sent reeling through that treacherous otherworld to claim long-lost relics of the Orican era. Whispers from ancient Orican spirits could on whatever deranged derelicts drift throughout, threatening madness as you plunder their remains. Lost Grineer and Corpus crews trapped in time and space could attempt to seize your railjack as their only means of escape. Lightless expanses could hide droves of dormant, corrupted vessels stalking the lights of your railjack as you search for void towers. Or maybe you could happen upon scout fleets of sentient amalgams testing their capacity for survival in the void. The further you go, the greater the danger, and the more alien your encounters. Give us a randomized overworld map with nodes we can jump to, with crumbs of info describing each, just enough for us to make a decision on which to travel to. Give that map some exit points for the crew to escape the storm, or skip them to risk continuing if you think you can make it to the next off-ramp. And don't forget to litter the game mode with crumbs of hidden lore and man-in-the-wall trickery so lore junkies can go nuts over the implications. Forget about rewards for just a second and ask yourself, doesn't that sound fun? No, I get it. Marketing analyses have probably dictated that small updates are the most effective. And of course, there are technical limitations too that red light ideas as soon as they're conceived. I'm sure DE has had some pretty sweet ideas that they discover to be square pegs trying to squeeze through the circle hole that is their game. And some content just gets cut, never making it to production. Realistically, the intentions of Void Storms in this update as a whole were most likely to add core gameplay to Railjack and provide an entry point that is relatively familiar for anyone who previously didn't engage with Railjack. But, with that said, if we're to expect updates of this scope in perpetuity, if we're to get wings instead of steak, please make sure that sauce is on point, because right now you're throwing a plate of mild our way when we need the spice. Side note, did you know you can starve to death if you only consume rabbit meat? You're eating, but you're dying. If more fleshed out game modes are in the works, I'll eat my words, but for now, Void Storms aren't inspired enough to keep my attention for more than a few runs. I'm one of those people who actually enjoys Railjack and continues to be excited for its development, but there's still quite a lot of development left from what I can tell. Anyway, if you've made it this far, then I've just about doubled the amount of content available to this update. Haha, cheap shot. Let's circle back. Here's your too long didn't watch. This update is a typical Warframe update, the size and substance of which meet expectations. If you're like me, then meeting expectations isn't quite enough anymore. The quest is pretty and fun, but short and thin, doing the bare minimum to get more players into a railjack and set up for the Sisters of Parvos. Void Storms are chaotic and just about as fun as Void Fissures, because that's all they are. If there's any takeaway from this feedback, any golden nugget with any value, let it be this. Let your writing team breathe more. Whatever creativity they can offer that would deepen the world and spark discussion, abide it. Let more of the gameplay, or even just quests, accommodate more fleshed out writing. Let your script be powerful, because if we're gonna go months at a time with Void Storms as our only breath of fresh air, we should at least have something to talk about in the meantime. I don't know how the writing process works at DE, and I certainly don't know enough about game development to inform me how to assign blame, so I won't. But based on this Reddit comment, I know DE spent about 4 months to ship this update. If I were to hazard a guess, I'd say that's a lot of time for under 800 words in a palette-swapped game mode. I'm oversimplifying, I'll admit. There's a lot more to developing a game than writing its script or executing an idea, and I don't know if they worked on the update every minute of those 4 months. They probably didn't, and I don't know if 4 months is a reasonable amount of time for an update of this scope in regards to the industry as a whole, but I just wish there were more to chew on, and honestly I'm sure DE agrees. I do have to acknowledge that times is tough, even for professionals with years of experience, and even if they have one of the writers who worked on Quantum Break and who wrote its novelization, sometimes the goal or intention of a work is smaller than its potential, in which case, the call of the Tempestarii is more of an unfortunate success than any kind of failure. And that's that, folks. We'll see what happens next time, although I doubt we'll get anything more than a cutscene to tease us into Sisters of Parvos. Speaking of, if they just drop the sisters into the game like they did with Liches, you can look forward to another one of these videos. Here's hoping that DE makes me look foolish. In the meantime, criticize the like and subscribe buttons and offer constructive feedback to the bell for more of our videos. Speaking of videos, channel update, we've been working in the background to set up for the future, and so we have a few things to show off, as well as some things we could use your feedback on. First up is a blog we put together. I know, weird. It's at sorryaboutyourdog.com. Since we're too small to have a community function, this is going to be the easiest way for us to give you updates on the channel. Plus, we'll be posting behind the scenes info on our videos, including our intentions with each video, how we went about trying to achieve those goals, and the wonderful numbers game that are our analytics data. Next up, we've had some trouble with one of our recent videos, which was subject to a pretty strung out copyright claim. I'm talking about this video. Normally I'd include some random footage of the video in question, but I'd worry that we'd get another claim, and that really messes with video notifications if a video gets outright blocked from posting. Anyway, it's a really funny video. We had a lot of fun making it for you. Check it out when you can. Last up, we're busy as hell, folks, and we're tired.
So fucking tired.
Why tired? Because we all work 40 plus hours a week outside of this channel, and this channel takes work itself. With your help, we'd like to change that. I'm talking about Patreon. We have one now. You can support us directly in our campaign to make this gig our full-time job, in which case you can expect a lot more videos a lot more often. Plus, you'll get some perks, like access to our community Discord server. We have the server, we need you for the community. If you like our videos, then you can be sure there's a bunch of people who like the same things you do waiting to hang out. Plus, we'll be hanging out in there too. Other perks include monthly Q&As, a deeper look behind the curtain on stuff we're working on and stuff that never made it to the channel, fan requests, and more. Check it out. Keep us off the streets. And that is pretty much it. If you've made it this far, you are a treasure. Thank you.